And so by law, um, first of all, I just want to say so many people have horrible diagnosis moments, whether it be prenatal or when their baby comes, like horrifying moments where doctors say the worst things. And we did not have that experience. Our doctor was very positive. He knew our hearts. He had seen us, 2 years before, and so he was great. So with that said, by law, he had to say to us, I was 20 weeks pregnant right then. And so he said, I have to tell you, if you wish to terminate this pregnancy, I need to do an amniocentesis today. And we would need to terminate this pregnancy by the end of the week. I have to offer you this by law. And of course, for us, that was a no-brainer. And we were like, no, of course not. We don't need to do that. And so we learned that in the United States, to terminate a pregnancy that far along, there has to be a clear diagnosis. Now, I'm not sure about all the states. I think some of them are different. But in Texas at the time, this was the law for us. But we had to terminate by 20 weeks. And we had to have an actual diagnosis. So the ultrasound was considered a screening. Any of the blood tests are considered a screening. Any of that in the state of Texas is just considered a screening. The only thing that is considered a diagnostic tool is the amniocentesis. So we declined that, and he offered us another test. It's a new test that's out. Of course, in the moment, we didn't have time to research and figure all that out. I wouldn't have necessarily changed my decision, but I've learned more about the test and just more information. It's not necessarily negative, but it's called, the one I took was called the Maternity 21 test. And so it's kind of amazing that science has come up with this, and they take your blood, the mom, and your baby's DNA is swimming around there in the mom's, and they basically isolate that DNA and test it. They test it for all kinds of things, and so the benefit of this was it was just going to be more information. It was going to be just confirming what we already pretty much knew, and then it was screening, like looking for any other abnormalities. And it for sure told us it was a girl. So, because amazingly, if there's no Y chromosomes in the blood, obviously it's just a girl, because mama's girl, right? So it's an amazing scientific thing. I'm totally amazed by how scientists have come up with this. So we did opt to take that test, just to get all the information we could to be prepared. That was our reasoning. Since we have found out that in other countries in the world, this test is considered a diagnostic tool, and it is considered 99% accurate, I think it might be more, 99.7% accurate. And really, there's only false negatives. That's really the only way it can be false. If it's positive, it's positive, because if they find a extra 21st chromosome, obviously if the mother does not have Down syndrome, then the baby inside does. So there really aren't any false positives with this test, which is why in other countries it is considered a diagnostic test. Therefore, it can be used as a reason or to legitimize an abortion. This is just something, just informationally. This is a test that is offered here in the United States, and as of right now, as far as I know, I have not done any recent research on this. It's still not considered a diagnostic test, but most likely it will become one. And so mothers will be able to get a simple blood test, and that will be a diagnostic tool. So I'm not here to debate all that, but this is just some of the information that we have gained. So we did opt for that blood test. So getting back to the moment when our doctor talked to us about this, he also was so kind, and he said to us, before I was a doctor, I worked in a residential adult, like assisted living situation for adults with Down syndrome. And he was like a house parent for the guys in this house. And so he said, this is a blessing. Like, he told us it was a great thing. And he said, you are the kind of parents that I love to give this news to, because I know that this is going to be great. And so as you can tell, we had the best possible diagnosis moment with him. He was so encouraging, and so he left the room, and we brought the kids in to the room. You know, he said, you can, you know, stay here as long as you need, and so we brought the kids in, and so that was hard, because what do you say, you know, in that moment? It's just like a fog. It's just so overwhelming in the moment. And so, you know, we brought the kids in, and we said, well, you know, I was, you know, kind of crying. I wasn't like full on crying, but, you know, I was teary, and, you know, Preston was crying, and so we told the kids that the baby that mom had in her belly has, we believe she has Down syndrome. Of course, none of them they didn't really have a reference point for that at that moment. And so, you know, we talked to them about that, and, you know, and at that moment, like, looking back, I would have totally said different things, you know, obviously, what I know now. But in the moment, it was, you know, we told them that, you know, she would have some, you know, things that would be different. She'd have some, you know, some things would be harder for her, and, you know, she would always probably need us to care for her in some way. And, you know, we didn't know, like, I had done no research, but, not that it was necessarily untrue, but, you know, but how do you, in the moment, what do you say? And so, you know, and we told them that, you know, if anything ever happened to us, that they would need to, you know, that they would have to take care of her. You know, they would always need to make sure that she was taken care of. And so, Ruby, 5-year-old, is that how old she was? No, she was 8. Okay, so she's 8. Or 7. She was 7. Okay, that's right. And she just starts crying when we tell her that they would have to take care of Phoebe if something ever happened to us. She just starts crying, bad crying. And I was like, what is wrong? And she said, well, if you die, I just don't think I can take care of her right now. And I mean, in her mind, I was going to die right then. And she was very concerned that as an 8-year-old or 7-year-old, she was not going to be able to take care of baby. So, and we were like, no, it's when we're all grown up. And, you know, anyway, that was kind of a funny moment, bless her. So that was kind of the moment. And there is so much to the story that I want to share with you guys. And I know that not everybody has a ton of time to sit down and listen to this, so I want to try and keep these videos short so they're in little bites. But I want to tell you guys about the rest of the day tomorrow, what the rest of that one day looked like for us, and how God was so present. And I have some great stories. So I hope you guys will come back tomorrow night, and hopefully I'll